All the way back on the broken shore, back in Legion, the short-lived war chief Vol'Jin fell, and as we learned, he was tricked by the Loa Rezan, who was subsequently under the control of the jailer to install Sylvanas as the new ruler of the Horde in order to begin the battle for Azeroth. Well, Vol'Jin reappeared, helped us out, rescued a few Loa within the Maw, and the Winter Queen gave him a chance to be reborn, as he is now an actual wildseed in Ardenweald. Seeing all the Elune stuff is happening, renewal, as well as the next expansion being on Azeroth, how likely is that Vol'Jin is returning in the next expansion, but not just returning, but possibly even becoming something of a demigod himself? Record your raids, arenas, Mythic Plus, all with Squadowy, the app that you just install, and it records itself without a click of a button. Aside from watching your friend's perspective and analyzing your performance, you can see complete encounter stats, spell visualizations, and a bunch of other things. Best of all, it can be done from anywhere, just from the web app. Check out Squadowy completely free with my link in the description. Vol'Jin is really one of the oldest characters in all of Warcraft history, as he has been in the game since like Warcraft 3, the son of Sen'jin defeated by the Murlocs as the orcs searched for a new home. Vol'Jin was the leader of the Darkspear Trolls. Then, as he got into bad relations with Garrosh, he became the leader of the rebellion, and ultimately everyone willingly chose him as a new war chief at the end of Mists of Pandaria. Unfortunately, his leadership was almost entirely non-spectacular in any way, shape or form. In fact, he barely did anything. He was the leader during Worlds of Draenor, and just as the Legion started, he was killed by a foot soldier as the Horde was overwhelmed by the demonic army. Now, a bunch of things happened here, but seeing as they added what actually happened in Shadowlands, let's just skip all this Battle for Azeroth stuff and let's just get to the most up-to-date information. What were the actual motives? As with most iconic characters, this little spice called the Jailer's Mega Brain was added to the mix, and turns out his entire last wish and death was but him fulfilling the Jailer's orders. As we had learned, Muezala, the troll Loa of Death, has been one of the oldest, if not the most ancient agent of Zobal on Azeroth. In fact, it was Muezala who had corrupted the Titan Keeper Odin all those thousands of years ago. Well, this time, Muezala again did the Jailer's bidding, and he got Vol'Jin to choose Sylvanas as the new war chief of the Horde. This, at the time, made about zero sense, since the relationship between the two was neutral at best, but with this added, it does make more sense. There is more logic to this. Turns out all of this was just a part of his plan, as he wanted to get Sylvanas in a position of power so that she could start a world war, so that more souls would flow towards the Maw, and so that ultimately the Jailer can escape. Now, that's a quick background on his death, but what exactly happened to Vol'Jin and what will happen to him in the future? Well, actually, Muezala wanted to send him directly to the Maw, but that was not quite possible, as for some reason, Vol'Jin's connection to Azeroth was very strong, so he could not do it. Seeing that now in 9.2 we are learning that the World Soul is indeed empowering the Shadowlands in some vague manner, this does make sense that certain characters that have a connection may have some sway over the death gods of the Shadowlands. However, unfortunately, we learned that Muezala sent a bunch of Loa that we had seen into the Maw, and then when Samdi calls upon Vol'Jin to help out, and we are there as well as the Maw Walker, because we're able to extract souls and actually return from the Maw. In particular, we're on the search for the wild god Ashamain that didn't want to join Muezala, so because of that, she was thrown into the Jailer's realm. However, as we go there, we run into a bunch of characters such as Hirik, Chandra, and we manage to rescue them, but most importantly, none of this really matters all that much, we run into Rezan, arguably one of the most influential Loa on Azeroth. However, he is in incredibly bad shape and just beyond saving, so a conversation happens with Vol'Jin. Rezan sees him as a fierce spirit that could do a lot of good back on Azeroth, so instead of attempting to return whatever is left, the actual essence of the Loa Rezan is imbued directly with the soul of Vol'Jin, and Vol'Jin promises not to waste this gift. So now Vol'Jin is no longer Vol'Jin, but he's a half-troll, half-devil star Loa of Kings, and one of the most ancient beings on Azeroth. hunt. Following this, we escape from the maw, return to the Winter Queen, and she actually offers Vol'Jin a chance to be reborn anew one day, as happens to all these demigods, wild gods, ancients, and such, and Vol'Jin accepts, saying it was time for him to begin a new hunt. Then he becomes a wildseed that we can observe, and now it is about time for one of the most iconic characters of Warcraft to actually return. However, the question is, how could this happen? When and what exactly would Vol'Jin even be once he is back? Would he be a troll? Would he be a god? Would he be a Loa? What exactly will happen to Vol'Jin? So, the actual mechanism of Ardenweald is just uncertain. We know that this realm is connected to all the nature realms, and it is like the winter death cycle where these beings regenerate through anima and they return back to the material plane. As I said, quite vague, but as we had learned, the Winter Queen and Elune are sisters, and they seem to be almost the exact same thing, just on the opposite sides of this big cycle. We've known this since the resurrection of scenarios that death serves to restore these powerful souls, but recently with 9.1, we learned that it might also work the same way, the other way around. We had a Elune conversation to Tiranda where Elune said she planned to send the Night Elven souls to Ardenweald in order to help out her sister and to counteract the drought. Of course, we don't know if she played an active or a passive role in this encounter, what she really did, but obviously there is some influence here, and just like everything we've learned through the Sepulchre and the most recent information, it is all a part of just one big universal cycle. So, life empowers death, death empowers life, and it just goes all the way around. Obviously, Vol'Jin is now set out to return, and he's already in the process, but we don't really know what the timeline of this is. Is it a year, 2 years, 100, 1,000 years? How long does it take for them to actually regenerate? There's just no information right now that can confirm anything, at least officially. I'm guessing now with the drought it is all but impossible, as there is barely enough energy to sustain the realm, let alone send souls to the material plane. But as you might know, and if you don't know, big spoiler alert, but we defeat the jailer, a new arbiter is put in place, and it does seem that ultimately we will return the afterlife back to order. For example, we know that the jailer is ultimately drained of his energy, and his death model is just an inanimate robot husk, so it might be possible that we take all the anima he had absorbed from the maw and we return it back to all the realms that they were supposed to go. Even more likely, as the jailer may be gone for good and the maw no longer really serves a purpose, it is possible that we could just break, dismantle the realm, and just let the souls go where they should actually go. This might then explain why Tiranda isn't actively working on getting the Night Elves out of the maw, as that might actually be done with one blow once the jailer is actually gone. So if this happens and Ardenweald is back to normal, then I think it is safe to say that Vol'Jin, as a very powerful spirit and a half Loa now, will be on the top priority list to actually return. As Elune sent those souls, the Winter Queen might be looking to return the favor to Azeroth, with Vol'Jin being in the first rows. However, in what manner he would return, well, that is just a whole different story. Here's the thing, Vol'Jin is no longer just a troll, but he is also half Rezan, an actual Loa, so I'm guessing he's going to become a demigod of sorts. As Elune is being built up in the Shadowlands and we know the next expansion will happen on Azeroth, I think his role will be highly likely in this regard. I am aware most hints right now are pointing towards the Dragon Isles, but that doesn't discount Elune. She could still play a massive role in an Azeroth dragon-focused expansion as we learn more about this new life pantheon. Then Vol'Jin could play a role in the side story of the trolls, possibly not returning to Azeroth as a part of the Horde, but as a Loa. He could become something of a Bonsandi, the main Loa of the Darkspear tribe. As we learned, it is likely that Bonsandi was a troll himself ages ago, so getting Vol'Jin to become a similar character would be really interesting and would really just open up a lot of possibilities for future storytelling. Thank you for watching. Check out our next video store by clicking on the screen, and check out Doronsmovies Academy for videos on real world history. See you next time.